So there's a difference, it sounds like, between producing Christian work for the public and proselytization.
Yeah, it's not proselytization. It is promoting what is good, beautiful, and true.
You're saying that is a universal human desire.
That is a universal human desire.
Welcome to the Singing, Dancing Catholic, where we talk about music, theater, dance, media, and performing arts from the Catholic perspective. I'm James Mark. The Singing, Dancing Catholic is the official podcast of Oratorio, St. Louis's only urban center for Catholic cultural and performing arts. Located at St. Francis de Sales Oratory in Fox Park, St. Louis. The mission of Oratorio is to enrich with performing arts the shared effort to keep Fox Park a beautiful place to live. For information on cultural events, concerts, dances, music lessons, and how you can participate, visit oratoriostl.com. And now, about today's guest.
Today's guest is an award-winning playwright, director, producer, and actor. A graduate of California Baptist University and Covenant Theological Seminary, Owen Brown is the artistic director and CEO of Bread and Wine Theater Company in St. Louis, a new theater company whose mission is to foster theatrical collaboration, to create innovative productions that highlight the beauty of a virtuous life. Owen's work includes First Person Shooter, which won Drama of the Year in the St. Louis Fringe Festival, Thomas Jefferson's Notes on the Murder, and The Long Christmas Dinner. In addition to directing existing works, Owen has also written original plays, including The Time of My Life and Injured? Call! Owen wrote the first ever comparative analysis of The Long Christmas Dinner play script and libretto, Time, Death, and the Bayards, the publication of which is forthcoming shortly. He has also written an original Vacation Bible School curriculum and is in the process of developing it towards publication. Good afternoon, Owen. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well, enjoying all of this crazy snow we're getting, making it out okay though.
Have you gotten stuck yet?
Barely, for 15 seconds. So I'm glad that I'm not been stuck yet. I just have to avoid parking on my street because they don't plow that. So as long as I do that, I'm fine.
All right, Owen, let's get right down to it. What is meant by Christian patrimony of the arts?
Art should be a field that Christians are more actively engaged in than they are in a lot of fields. Christian patrimony of the arts means that as Christians, as Catholics, we engage and involve ourselves into making and recreating beautiful cities because we want to see the beauty of our God brought into those cities.
Now you use the word fields. Arts is a field that Christians need to be active in. Do you think there's a deficit of Christian participation in the arts?
I would say yes. You get a number of things that have caused this. There's a lot of Christians that say, there's a lot of bad messages in the arts, so we'll just disconnect ourselves. Or another thing that Christians sometimes do is we'll just make art that's only for Christians. So if we're going to do paintings that specifically have Jesus, or we're going to do a song that is a worship song, we'll do that. Or if it's a movie that's about specifically Jesus, we'll do that. But if we're doing a movie about puppies or a movie about, divorce and recovery from that or whatever it is, we can't do that because, we'll just leave that to the secular culture because we want to stick to the Christian things. And the problem is that Christianity and Christians in particular don't make these stories that the entire world's going to hear. And if you think about this as target audiences, if we want to do a Christian theater company, we are doing this for Christians. We're only marketing it to Christians. And as our world has increasingly walked away from the faith, what that means is our market audience is increasingly smaller and smaller. And so the vast majority of art, what you're going to see on Netflix and Amazon Prime and all of that, is not made by Christians, nor are Christians telling their children, hey, you could aspire to make good movies and get them on Amazon.
So 2 words you used to unpack there. One was walk away, the other was withdrawal. So it sounds like what you're describing is a walkout, a Christian relinquishment of proprietorship over the arts.
Yes, very much so.
Does that also imply that at one point they had proprietorship? Do you think Christianity has an inherent obligation to art, or is it something that somebody else has always done for them and they decided they weren't happy, as if they were themselves the audience and not the producer?
Christians have always been producers of art. I mean, first off, if you look at the biblical story, when God commissioned Adam, he said, fill the world and subdue it. And Adam started gardening, which gardening is a form of art. And then the first people to make music, it was all related to a relationship with God, with Yahweh. And then once you get into like God with the people of Israel, he designed actually this super beautiful temple, and the Holy Spirit would come upon people and teach them to be better artists. The best musician, the best music writer of all time is David, the psalmist. And then what you see with the expansion of Christianity is an expansion and flourishment of the arts. All of the most beautiful buildings historically were built by Christians. All of the most expansive things that were done on an artistic level were Christian. Theater used to be far more Christian. Obviously, the ancient Greeks did a lot with that. But music was inherently developed as a Christian concept, and also, the outflowing of all musical development was sacred music. It was, this is the music, we are trying to make the best music because we are going to worship God in beautiful ways and more praiseworthy because our God is praiseworthy, and then everything else flows out of it.
So you mentioned the ancient Greeks. It seems as though every civilization of consequence, Greeks, we could extend it to Romans, Aztecs, and Mayans, all had art. But that Christians are like they're no different than any other civilization. They had art as well. Art might have been what made them worthy of being considered a civilization, which makes interesting the idea of a walkout, because that means somewhere along the line, and I'm time-lapsing things here, it seems as if Christianity abandoned that role.
I do think that there was a special prioritization of the art for Christians. So for Greeks, Plato, who's one of their best thinkers and an amazing writer and really influential to me too. But Plato was not a fan of the arts because of his system of thinking. There's always been within Christian civilization a special attention to the arts because we recognize that our God is a creator. And so if our God is a creator who made beautiful things and took all this time to make a beautiful physical world and created music and even says a number of times commands his people to sing a new song and dance and all of these things, Christians have always had a particular attention. Every civilization has had art. Every good civilization has had good arts. But Christians have not only had just as much, but even prioritized art more than other people for the most part.
Do you think you said the word particular? The Christians' particular attention to art, what you just said, the prioritization of it, does that have anything to do with the incarnation of Jesus Christ?
Yes, it does. If Jesus, who is the Son of God, decided that it was, to use a crude phrase, worth his time to become a human being, to say, this world is worth me, who is fully God, who taking on these limitations to remake humanity and restore humanity to this beautiful vocation, it means inherently that Jesus cares about human things and this mission of beautifying and restoring it. Athanasius says, what Christ did not assume, he could not redeem. Christ assumed humanity, and he also assumed earthly existence because he wanted to redeem earthly existence. Always, if you look at the movement of redemption, it always starts with salvation and works into glorification. There's always, I'm going to save something and then I'm going to make it beautiful. That's why if you buy a rundown house, the first thing you do is you save it. You fix the plumbing, you make sure that it runs, and then the second thing you do is you beautify it. You paint it, you decorate it, you put music into it, you create a space with it. So on the first thing, we need to, save our world. That's why your first thing you make sure is, does this human being have what they need to eat, to sleep? Are they safe? And then you give them, essentially, you give them art. You make their life beautiful. And so Jesus said, hey, first I'm going to save humanity. I'm going to become one of them. But also him incarnating means I'm going to make humanity beautiful, and I'm restore humanity and advance humanity to more beauty than Adam ever had before the fall.
So Jesus Christ has raised the stakes on art when compared to other ancient civilizations. Art is not a luxury for Christians. It sounds like it's part of their charter.
Yes. Art is 100% part of the mission and the commission of God. Because the Christian commission is to participate with Jesus Christ in coming back to God, and coming back to God always involves a restoration of beauty, making the entire world like God's kingdom in heaven above, now on earth. And there's no way you can do that without art.
So, of everything that's been said, art is not a luxury.
Yeah. Art is not a luxury, it is a necessity, and it is a command. And that's why Christians walking away from the arts, as they have, it just is fundamentally opposed to God's commands, and it makes no sense.
So would you say that currently where we're at, 2025, 2026, if you were to say who are the best supporters and patrons of arts, would you say it's Christians?
No. But
Right.
I do think Christians have gotten better in the past 5 or 6 years.
So maybe that coming back that you're describing, it might be happening right now?
A little bit. It's starting in stages. There were certain movies and film has actually been an industry that has had a return of Christians saying, we're going to make really good Christian art. And when I say Christian art, I don't mean always explicitly talking about Jesus. I just mean it's beautiful and it honors and glorifies God.
So that kind of brings us to the next topic here, the situation today. We can identify historical precedent. We've talked today about ancient civilizations. The Greeks valued art, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Romans. Christ scales all this with the incarnation, moving art away from like a token of the elite or the powerful to a charter for all Christians and a form of, it sounds like an expression of love for a Christian to fulfill their universal vocation. Now where we're at, it's maybe lapsed, but we're identifying possibly the beginning of a return. What are some examples either of the presence of efforts that you've seen of other Christians? You mentioned some film. And if not that, the absence of it. I mean, what was the vacuum or the tenuous situation in which you started this company?
Well, number of things there. In the increasing movement towards more power in government and less power in individuals, individuals say, well, there are government grants for the arts, so I don't need to give to the arts. But as Christians, as individual Christians, are like, well, I don't want to be a patron for the arts, or it's not the role of the church or individuals to be patrons for the arts, it's the government's role to patronize the arts. Well, the problem is the government has already said, for better or for worse, we're not going to patronize Christian art. We're not going to support Christian art. So that means you don't actually have any support financially for the beautification of things, because beautification is always a process that seems like it is unimportant, but is actively so vital. Because at the end of the day, if you give a child food and clothing and make sure they're taken care of and they don't get sick, they'll survive for their entire time under your roof, and you can say, oh, I took care of them, but you never flourished their spirit towards what is beautiful and true and never taught them. I think a lot of Christians are scared to make art for the world because they think that the world does not want virtuous art. They think they want sex, or they want what's inappropriate, or they want violence, or that's what you see in art. So they say, well, I'm either going to do one of two things. I'm either not going to engage in art at all, or if I make art, it's only going to be for Christians. I'm not going to market it to the other people because I don't want to be rejected by them, and also I don't want to shove my religion on them.
So if we take like a supply and demand approach to this,
Yeah.
Christians generally feel as if there is no demand for
Yes.
virtuous art. Now, what do you think about that? Is that an accurate market analysis?
I mean, I don't think so. So the entire idea with my company was I want to create a Christian theater company that is for people of all walks of life. That means we can bring in collaborators that aren't Christians, so long as the projects we're doing still are in line with biblical values, still in line with traditional Christian teaching, and we say, hey, you can come act in this show, even if you're not a Christian, because maybe this is Steel Magnolias, and it is a show that I don't think was written by a Christian, but promotes biblical values of endurance and self-sacrifice and love. Or maybe it's Babbitt's Feast, which was written by a Catholic author, at least the short story was, and then developed, but has been received super well by off-Broadway audiences. And these stories speak to people of all walks of life. And when we had our Christmas Short Play Festival this last December, we had a super diverse audience. We had people from all different spectrums, religiously, politically, as far as people collaborating in it. And we had amazing reviews from critics and amazing reviews from audiences, because there really is a gap of people that want good art that they can say, I came away and I fell in love with something good. I'm able to bring my kids to this.
So the fear that you've described Christians have might be misplaced. And there's a reason for them to be afraid, but that actually their assumption that they might come to that, oh, what can I offer? Like you said, sex sells, my idea doesn't sell because it's virtuous. They might actually be wrong about that.
I would agree with that for the most part. I think especially when it comes to just the biblical Christian virtues, the fruits of the Spirit, but not really actively advertising this is Christian, that has a huge market across the world. And that's one of the things we're seeing. Amazon and Netflix and some of these companies are starting to ask producers, hey, we don't have anything for families, so what do you have to sell me that is going to actually be good? And this is why the film industry is one of the industries where Christian art is growing the most. Because of that, I still think within the art world, there still can be a little bit of a resistance. If you say God's name, character mentions that they went to church or something, there still can be kind of like a pushback, as if they think that you're shoving it down their throats just because someone went to church, which, is a normal human thing to do. Just like if someone else mentions, oh, my character is a dancer, it's not shoving dancing down your throat.
So there's a difference, it sounds like, between producing Christian work for the public and proselytization.
Yeah, it's not proselytization. It is promoting what is good, beautiful, and true.
You're saying that is a universal human desire.
That is a universal human desire. And even if you do have specific Christian references in a particular show, like Babbitt's Feast has a lot of Christian allusions, which is the next show we're producing, or the show I wrote, The Time of My Life, has some references to Christianity. I think it quotes a Bible verse once, but the show was not written to proselytize. It's written to be a good show that is artistically crafted in a painstaking way and shows you a story that is universal.
But if it is truly a universal human desire to promote that which is good, true, and beautiful, why would it take courage to do something that is so universally desired? Why is it a risk to do something so universally desired?
Art is inherently a risk because art entrepreneurship means you are trying to sell someone or give someone something they don't need at a basic human need level. They need it at a ontological level. They need it for fulfillment long-term fulfillment of what is better for themselves and their society.
Now tell us, how is Bread and Wine today getting the true, the good, and the beautiful out there?
When we started about a year ago, we really just had a basic vision. We wanted to make good art that was virtuous for people of all walks of life. Our inaugural show, we sold about 300 tickets. It was a show I wrote called The Time of My Life. It really touched a lot of people because it showed the story that I went through of what happens when you really start disconnecting from everyone around you.
And what year did you found it officially?
We founded Bread and Wine Theater Company in February of 2025.
So you're coming up to your first year anniversary.
We are coming up to our first year anniversary. And so far, we've done about 7 different table reads. We've done 2 full productions. Our next full production is scheduled in March. Obviously doing this collaboration with Oratorio, which is also in March. We have a conference we're doing with the C.S. Lewis Study Center in June. We're doing another Christmas Short Play Festival next year. So for us, we want to be producing new works. After The Time of My Life, for our Christmas Short Play Festival, we had 81 submissions for our short play competition we did. And with those plays, what we were able to do is really inspire a group of writers and say, hey, we will actually be a company that will produce these shows you write. You don't have to include any of the stuff that authors typically think, oh, this is what companies want. They want things more extreme, more raunchy. We're just going to produce good shows. And so you can write a good, clean show, and here's a place for it. We were able to produce a show called The Last Mall Santa by Michael Cox, which was just an awesome show about this mall Santa reflecting back on his life and about the shame of his own failed parenthood and how consumerism had taken away all of the Christmas magic that he was used to.
And was this an original?
This was an original piece. The other one, Baked Alaska by Kelly Lynn Wooden, was also an original piece. At the end, The Last Mall Santa brought tears to a lot of people's eyes because it was sad, it was depressing at times, but it also showed that there was still hope. Because at the end, this mall is closing, this mall Santa is alone, his wife is dead, his kids don't talk to him, and he's reflecting back on all of the things he should have done better. And this is going to be his last time at the mall, taking pictures with kids. And it's mainly a one-man show. And then this 11-year-old kid comes on and he asks, so what's your name? And she says, Hope. And then there's this beautiful moment where even though he did all of these things wrong, even though he could have done all of these things better, there's still hope. Mm-hmm. And like Baked Alaska, it's all of these people that they made some bad choices, but then they are actually finding redemption through self-sacrifice. You know, the Long Christmas Dinner, which was able to tell the story of there's time, there's death, these things are unchangeable, and yet there is eternity and an eternal hope that runs throughout that.
And who wrote The Long Christmas Dinner?
That's Thornton Wilder. So Thornton Wilder is a little bit of my forte. This summer, the conference we're doing with the C.S. Lewis Study Center in Massachusetts will be on Thornton Wilder and how faith and his Christian faith had to played into the way he wrote. So it's called Something Eternal, Time, Death, and Faith in Thornton Wilder.
So Bread and Wine Theater is putting on almost half and half original and classic plays?
Pretty much half and half original and classic plays. Our next piece will be Babbitt's Feast, which is an established piece. We kind of like to alternate because there's a lot of really good shows. If we want to restore Christian patrimony in the arts, that includes the creation of new works and a new canon of beautiful pieces.
So not just the preservation and curation of an inherited past, but a continuity and a generation of new works. Who else is doing this, if anybody?
Within theater, there's a great organization. They're not specifically Christian, but they're run by a Christian, called New Threads Theater Company.
New Threads?
Yes, they're out in Chattanooga. They're doing a lot of great work with the creation of new plays. I will say with a lot of theater is still one of the more resistant to the Christian faith. So I don't know how many other companies are doing what we're doing.
I don't myself know of any. I mean, you are truly a trailblazer here. You mentioned that art is inherently a risk because you're selling something people don't need. So you are a risk taker. You're a trailblazer. There might not be other companies doing this today, but I think give enough time, there's going to be people who follow you, who imitate you. You're going to start a trend. And that's why I think it's remarkable. That's why I wanted to bring you on today. Owen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's very inspiring seeing what Oratorio is already doing with music and also with cultural restoration in general, because that is what we are wanting to do specifically in the theatrical realm.
The mission of Oratorio is to enrich with music the shared effort to keep Fox Park a beautiful place to live. For information on cultural events, concerts, dances, music lessons, and how you can participate, visit oratoriostl.com. Thank you for listening.